Clara, 60, clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch like a life raft, glaring rain-smeared London streets. Grief had turned her into a professional wallflower until a stranger in a polka-dot trench coat hip-checked her into Foyle's book club night. Mondays are for misbehaving, love, woman winked, vanishing into a crowd clutching paperbacks like torches. Inside, mismatched armchairs cradled silver-haired rebels swapping dog-eared novels with post-it conf. Clara clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked like her own hesitant heart. 60 years of living, yet grief had made her a novice again, fumbling through loss like a reader skipping pages, desperate for an ending that made sense. Thursday night's bookshop had become her lifeline, though showing up still felt like stepping onto ice in socks. Lit events buzzed around her, poetry slams, author signings, but she drifted toward back table where dog-eared novels waited in a community swap pile. Each book bore whispers of past owners, coffee rings, underlined passages, shopping lists tucked between chapters. She traced her thumb over a margin note in familiar handwriting, her breath catching. Grief, she realized, wasn't a storm to outrun but a tide. Some days it receded, leaving shells of memory to pocket. Others, it surged, knocking her knees like a clumsy dancer. Yet here, among strangers trading stories instead of spines, she found rhythm. A retired teacher handed her a memoir with a wink. This one's a gut punch, but kind that stitches you back up. By winter, Clara brought her own stack to swap, including that weathered Middlemarch. Letting go felt less like surrender and more like passing a torch. After all, love wasn't a closed book but a library, its shelves expanding with every shared tale. Creator clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked like her own heart. She hadn't read a page since he passed, until today. Outside a cozy bookshop in Camden, a handwritten sign caught her eye, Community Book Swap and Grief Circle. No sad sacks, just stories. A laugh bubbled up, surprising her. 60 years old, and here she was, tempted by a pun. Inside, mismatched armchairs formed a circle. A woman with silver braids and a neon green cardigan waved her over. Newbies get first pick, she said, nudging a pile toward Clara. Books were worn, loved, some with notes scribbled in margins, tiny testaments to lives lived. Clara's fingers grazed a dog-eared copy of Secret Garden, its pages smelling of lavender. A sticky note peeked out, for when you need reminding, things grow back. That first meeting blurred into a second, then a third. She discovered group's rhythm, half literary debate, half confessional, always with biscuits. She learned to navigate emotional minefield of sharing without collapsing, how to cradle someone's pain without buckling under its weight. One evening, she brought Middlemarch, placing it gently on swap table. Letting go felt less like betrayal and more like passing a torch. Then came hiccup. A new member, sharp-eyed and skeptical, scoffed Clara's suggestion of alchemist. Fluff, she declared. Clara's cheeks burned, but braided woman Myra, she'd learned, leaned in. Bet you 10 quid fluff gets you through next week, room erupted. She grinned. 60, she was learning to spar again. Weeks later, Creator organized her first event, a blind date with a book night, wrapped in brown paper with only 3-word clues. Lost then found, she scrawled on Middlemarch's package. Watching strangers cradle her husband's book, she felt a quiet thrill. Grief hadn't shrunk, but her world had grown around it, lit by stories and this crew of unlikely allies. One rainy Tuesday, Myra pressed a tattered Pride and Prejudice into her hands. Inside, underlined in wobbly ink, Darcy was a fixer-upper too. Clara snorted, then teared up. Maybe healing wasn't about moving on but moving with books, laughter, and stubborn hope that even old dogs could learn new tricks. She clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked like her resolve some mornings. 60 years old and suddenly alone, she'd spent months pretending dusting his bookshelf counted as progress. But today, stubbornness won. She lugged novel to Lit and Larty's, a bookshop where mismatched armchairs huddled like gossipy aunties. Community book swaps happened every third Thursday. Creator had circled date 6 times in red, then crossed it out 5. What if no one wanted a grieving woman's melancholy hovering over their scones? But shop's chalkboard promised bring a book, leave a story, and desperation had a funny way of masquerading as courage. She swapped Middlemarch for a dog-eared Joan Didion, its margins scribbled with strangers' epiphanies. Turns out, grief shared was grief halved, or least distributed more fairly. By month 3, Clara's shelf brimmed with hand-me-down novels, each one a stepping stone out of solitude. She devoured memoirs with her tea, underlined poetry in waiting rooms, even laughed a Nora Ephron essay in dentist's chair. Books weren't escapes, they were mirrors, reflecting back versions of herself she'd forgotten, curious, sharp, capable of joy that didn't require permission. Lit and lattes, she discovered others stitching themselves back together with prose. A retired teacher dissecting year of magical thinking over biscotti. A young widow hiding behind Wild until its pages stuck together with tears. They never called it therapy, just book club, but effect was same. Creator started leaving notes in margins herself, this lit me up, or try custard tart next door, little breadcrumbs for next lost soul. One rainy afternoon, she spotted her old Middlemarch across shop, nestled in hands of a silver-haired man nodding along to Eliot's wisdom. She didn't reclaim it. Some stories needed to keep traveling. Instead, she reached for a Grief Observed, its cover creased from previous readers. She flipped to chapter 3, where someone had scrawled "You're not alone" in shaky cursive. London's drizzle pattered against window. Clara took a slow sip of Earl Grey, turned page, and kept going. Creator clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked like her own heart. 3 months since his passing, dust had settled on his favorite armchair, but grief clung thick as London fog. Today, though, she'd decided, no more hiding behind drawn curtains. With a deep breath, she tucked novel under one arm and marched toward Primrose Hill Books, where a handwritten sign fluttered in breeze, "Community Book Swap, new members welcome." Inside, shelves groaned under weight of stories, and a dozen women chatted over steaming mugs. Clara's knees wobbled. 60 years old, and she felt like a schoolgirl on her first day. What if they pitied her? What if she fumbled words, or worse, cried? But then fingers brushed that worn cover, and something stubborn flared in her chest. She cleared her throat. "Mind if I join?" Silence. A silver-haired skeptic in a peacock blue scarf arched an eyebrow. "Here we go," Creator thought. But instead of shrinking back, she hoisted Middlemarch high, its pages splayed like wings. "This got me through darkest nights," she said, voice steadier than she felt. "Bet some of yours did too." A pause. Then, magic. Nods. A tissue passed discreetly. Someone chuckled. Bloody Eliot. Always knew she'd save someone. By evening's end, Creator wasn't just another widow in a cardigan. She was woman who'd brought lemon drizzle cake, slightly lopsided, who'd quoted Dorothea Brooke with fiery conviction, and who'd accidentally knocked over a teapot in a dramatic gesture. Occupational hazard, she deadpanned, mopping up with napkins. Room erupted. Even skeptic Inscarf cracked a smile. Then came Twist, a local journalist, nursing a chai in corner, snapped a photo. Next morning, Clara's face, mid-laugh, cake crumbs on her sleeve, lit up Instagram. "Grief Book Club goes viral," red caption. Messages poured in, "Teach us how to be this brave." Standing by her window, sunlight warming wrinkled hands, Clara finally exhaled. No more widow. No more ghosting through life. Just her, a dog-eared novel, and this riotous, messy, glorious tribe. "I finally belong here." Outside, cherry blossoms swirled. Somewhere, a page turned. Clara, 60, clutched her late husband's battered copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked like her heart. But grief, she learned, wasn't a solo read, it needed footnotes, margin scribbles, a chorus of voices. So she lit a match, metaphorically, safety first, love, and started a book club in her local London bookshop, stacking dog-eared novels like bricks to rebuild herself. Week after week, women arrived, clutching their own worn stories. A retired nurse with Wuthering Heights sticker-noted to death. A young mum hiding bell jar in her nappy bag. Clara guided them, not with platitudes, but with quirks like insisting everyone read aloud while balancing a biscuit on their nose. Distraction works wonders. Old novel, once a relic of loss, became a living thing, passed hand to hand, grief softening with every shared underline. Then came Twist, a community book swap. Leave one, take one, no questions. A tattered Pride and Prejudice migrated to a teen's backpack. A cookbook stained with tears found a new kitchen. Clara watched, grinning, as her sorrow became scaffolding for others. Even Mel Robbins would have fist-pumped. Now, her club's so lit, Bookshop hosts monthly shelf-help events. And Clara? She's not a widow, she's a conductor, orchestrating hope one paperback at a time. Grab your story, crack it open, pass it on.